Now they tried the Russian collusion delusion. To this day, millions of dollars spent investigating, but they've come up with not an iota, not a scintilla of evidence that Donald Trump or his campaign or his friends or yours truly colluded with the Russians to affect the outcome of the election.
Dave Palumbo with an Rxmuscle news update. As you guys probably heard in the major news reporting, political pundit Roger Stone has been arrested and indicted on many charges related to the Russian hacking scandal. Ironically enough, we had him on the TV show here, one of our most famous guests with Ameen Alai, the mad scientist guru. And I thought it was only appropriate to play the, I guess, relevant clips. Now, early this morning, they came and they knocked on his door. Looks like a SWAT team came there at 6 in the morning. They woke him up. It was dark out, and they arrested him. Obviously, he's out on bail now. He says he will not testify against the president, no matter what. Here's Roger in our interview several months ago. You know, I'm sure he knew that this day was coming, but let's hear what he had to say. I had a question for you. You were instrumental in the Donald Trump campaign. At some point, you left the campaign, but I know you're still friends with Donald. You talk about that all the time. Why do you think that the American public, or at least the current government, is so anti-Trump? Why are they so after this guy?
Well, I don't think the American people are anti-Trump. We have a record stock market. We have unemployment at historic low levels. African-American unemployment at the lowest level ever in the history of our country since they began keeping statistics. We have the North and South Koreans at the table negotiating, which is good because we don't need to perish in a nuclear holocaust. We have ISIS on the run. We're trashing these big international trade deals that have sucked the jobs out of America. No, I actually think when you go to middle America, when you go to so-called flyover country, Donald Trump and the job he's doing is quite popular. What you have here is a two-party duopoly. The elites of both the Republican and Democratic parties, and they've run things their way for the last 30 years. And what have they gotten us? Endless war, where our inherent national interests are not clear. Massive debt and spending and borrowing that Ameen's son is going to end up paying for, and his son, and his son. Right. Erosion of our civil liberties, where they're reading our emails, reading our text messages, listening to our phone calls. Massive international trade deals that move all the jobs offshore. Immigration policies that don't work, where our streets and neighborhoods are in many cases unsafe. It is a calamity. And let's be clear. This is the responsibility of Republicans and Democrats working together. No one country can screw things up this badly all by themselves. The Bushes and the Clintons are the same. The Clintons are not liberals. They're crony capitalists. They're in it for the money. The Bushes are not conservatives. They're crony capitalists, only interested in lining their own pockets and the pockets of their already wealthy friends. But they've had their way for so long, and they had this all figured out. It was wired. The Republicans would nominate Jeb Bush. The Democrats would nominate Hillary. Jeb, your job is to lose gracefully. Then we'll continue to pay you and your family off. They'll continue to make millions. And we'll continue to march America off to foreign wars and bankrupt us. Along comes a guy who is not perfect by any means, but who doesn't come from politics, who isn't afraid to say the hard truths. He isn't some confection. He's not reading from polling that tells him how to be popular or what to say to be popular. He's got friends like Jesse Ventura and Hulk Hogan, and he's outside the box. And of course, we all know there was no chance whatsoever that he could win. We didn't need to worry about that. Every poll showed him losing. It was in the bag for Hillary. Except for it wasn't. Now they're in shock. So first they tried to jam him in the Electoral College. That failed. Then they demanded a recount. Well, the recount showed he actually won bigger than we thought. Now they tried the Russian collusion delusion. To this day, millions of dollars spent investigating, but they've come up with not an iota, not a scintilla of evidence that Donald Trump or his campaign or his friends or yours truly colluded with the Russians to affect the outcome of the election. They're still in shock. That's why you have the talking heads at CNN, and Jake Tapper's got his pink silk panties in a twist about Donald Trump. They need to just get over it and let him go on with doing his job. When you consider how much opposition he's getting, it's amazing that he's achieved as much as he has so far.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. It must make you feel good to know that you've been instrumental in all these election campaigns and working with all these, presidents. I mean, you're really one of the unsung heroes behind the scenes, guys that don't get much fanfare and maybe take a lot of flack. Do you like that position that you kind of harbor in the political world?
Well, let's be very clear. Donald Trump is the master of his own fate, more than anybody I've ever worked for. And yes, I worked for Nixon, I worked for Reagan, I worked for Bob Dole, a great patriot, a great American. I even worked, I'm sorry to say, for the Bushes briefly until I figured out their deal. But Donald Trump is very much a creation of himself. There is no Karl Rove in Trump world. There's nobody putting words in his mouth. No one suggested the wall to him. The wall was his idea. He's been my friend for almost 40 years. I'm honored to have been helpful around the edges. But I want to be absolutely clear. No one elected Donald Trump other than Trump himself. And these stories that came out recently from this fictional writer, Michael Wolff, in his book, say Trump never wanted to win, Trump never expected to win. That's all completely and totally false. There was not a time during the campaign, not once, I talked to him many, many, many times, that he wasn't upbeat, that he wasn't optimistic, that he wasn't determined to win. And right to the end, he thought he would win. And of course, he turned out to be right. The debates, Hillary spent hours preparing for the debates, going through briefing books, sitting in front of a mortar board and being thrown questions. You know how much time Trump spent preparing for the debates?
Dave, I actually know all this to be, for the most part, true because I'm so close to Roger that I've seen all this over all the years, and this is the way it is.
No preparation?
He speaks from the heart. He speaks from the gut. It's completely instinctive.
That's
Go
awesome.
back to that moment in the debates when Hillary Clinton says to him, "We can't have a man like Donald Trump running the Justice Department." And Trump turns to her and says, "That's right, because you'd be in jail." It was at that exact episode that I knew he would win.